In every interaction with a client, we are given a reflection, not merely of the other person, but of ourselves. Their questions expose the depth of our understanding. Their doubts reveal the stability of our conviction. Their tension uncovers our own resistance to the present moment. When we meet a client, we meet a version of ourselves shaped by their presence. A mirror does not choose what to reflect. It does not judge the image. It simply reveals. In the same way, a client does not bring anything new into us. They only expose what already exists within us. If we are impatient, it will surface. If we are present, that too will become visible. The client becomes the surface upon which our inner discipline, or lack thereof, becomes undeniable. Some approach clients with the mindset of service, and others with the mindset of superiority. But the mirror does not allow disguise. A client's discomfort with our answers may not point to their ignorance, but to the arrogance we unknowingly carry. Their silence might not be resistance, but a sign we have spoken without listening. In this way, the client becomes a compass for our own self-correction. When we find ourselves frustrated with a client's slowness, it is often our speed that needs investigation. Why are we rushing? What are we trying to avoid in ourselves that their pace forces us to face? Their lack of clarity may reflect our own poor communication. Their hesitation might reveal the forcefulness of our guidance. Each difficulty is a doorway to a deeper honesty. To see the client as a mirror is not a poetic metaphor. It is a discipline. It requires removing the mask of professionalism and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable in service. Vulnerability is not weakness in this practice. It is the strength to remain open, the courage to see ourselves as we are, not just as we wish to be seen. A mirror becomes clearer the more it is cleaned. Likewise, the clearer our intentions and the purer our awareness, the more gracefully we engage with others. We do not fix the mirror when the reflection is unclear. We adjust the light. We cleanse the surface. We stand still. The same applies when there is misalignment with a client. We do not fix them. We refine ourselves. The more we grow in presence, the more the mirror shifts. Clients who once triggered impatience now evoke compassion. Those who confused us now help us discover clarity. We begin to recognize patterns, not in them, but in ourselves. Places we tighten, words we repeat, truths we avoid. The mirror begins to teach if we are willing to look. True mastery is not in how we shape the client, but in how we let them shape us. Each interaction becomes a practice, each conversation a moment of reflection. The client, then, is no longer someone we serve. They become part of the path itself. There is often a misunderstanding in the relationship between one who serves and one who receives. Many believe the responsibility flows in a single direction, from the one who offers to the one who asks. But such an imbalance breeds misunderstanding, dissatisfaction, and fatigue. True engagement begins when both sides recognize that the responsibility is shared. When a client steps into our space, they do not arrive empty-handed. They bring history, intention, expectation, and sometimes resistance. These are not burdens, they are elements of the exchange. Our task is not to carry these for them, but to meet them in the middle. This requires clarity. It requires agreement. It requires a shared understanding that the process belongs to both. If the one offering feels solely responsible for the outcome, tension will rise. The work becomes forced. Effort becomes strained. Energy becomes misdirected. Likewise, if the one receiving expects transformation without effort, they remain a passive participant in their own growth. In both cases, something vital is lost: the presence of mutual engagement. We do not plant the seed and then grow the tree for someone else. We show them the soil, guide the planting, and provide the water, but the growing, That is a partnership. When both client and guide understand this, the work becomes lighter and paradoxically deeper. Each moment becomes an act of co-creation rather than performance or transaction. Responsibility in this shared context is not about blame. It is about ownership. When a misunderstanding arises, we do not ask, who is at fault? We ask, where did we disconnect? If the client retreats, we ask, did I push too far, or did I fail to invite them inward? If progress halts, we inquire, did we both commit to walking this path, or has one stepped back? It takes humility to admit that the client is not the only one growing. We too are shaped by this interaction. Their challenges refine our patience. Their insights expand our perception. Their resistance sharpens our methods. Without this awareness, we become rigid in our ways, assuming we are the fixed point and they the ones who must adapt. Mutual responsibility requires mutual respect. We must recognize the dignity in the other's struggle, and they must recognize the sincerity in our guidance. Without respect, the dynamic fractures. Guidance becomes control, and inquiry becomes dependence. Only when both stand upright in their own roles can the space between them become sacred. There is strength in saying, we walk together, but you must move your feet. There is wisdom in showing, I cannot carry you, but I will not abandon you. And there is harmony in realizing that the work belongs to neither alone, but lives in the invisible space created when both choose to meet fully, and stay to listen is often mistaken as a passive act. Moment of silence while another speaks. But true listening is an active discipline. It requires more than open ears. It requires an open heart, and most importantly, it requires the quieting of the one who listens. Not just quieting the mouth, but quieting the inner noise that constantly tries to prepare answers, judge meaning, or anticipate the next move. When we listen only to respond, we are not present. We are rehearsing. When we listen with an agenda, we are not receiving. We are filtering. The client may speak for 10 minutes, but if we were only waiting for our turn to speak, we have heard nothing at all. The depth of our listening becomes the space in which the client feels safe enough to reveal not only their thoughts, but the emotions beneath them. Serving through listening means holding space without interruption, without impatience, and without assumption. This kind of listening is rare. It feels unusual, even unsettling, because most are used to being heard just enough to be answered, but not enough to be understood. To be listened to deeply is to be seen, it is to be honored, it is to be respected without needing to earn it. There is a stillness required to listen in this way, a stillness that does not reach forward to grab or backward to compare, just presence, just attention, just breathe. In this state, the words of the client are not isolated sounds. They carry energy, emotion, and intention. If we listen clearly, we hear what is said, and we begin to feel what is not said. Sometimes the most important message a client brings is hidden between their words. It is in the pause, in breath before they continue, in the tone that rises when a certain subject is approached. These are the areas where listening becomes a kind of sacred service. We are no longer merely professionals. We become witnesses to the internal world of another human being. To listen like this requires that we remove the armor of needing to fix, advise, or impress. It demands that we step back from our knowledge and allow simplicity to lead. Silence becomes our ally. Curiosity replaces judgment. In this space, we offer something that cannot be bought or faked. We offer presence. Presence is the rarest form of service because it cannot be divided. It is either full or absent. A client can sense when we are split, half in their world, half in our own. But when we truly listen, we say without words, you matter. You are safe. You are being held, not handled. And from that place, real transformation becomes possible. The paradox of deep listening is that we often end up speaking less, yet offering more. What we say carries more weight because it is born from alignment, not reaction. In this space, we serve not by leading, but by accompanying, not by solving, but by witnessing, not by directing, but by deeply, patiently hearing. When a client arrives, they do not come alone. They bring with them invisible companions, assumptions, desires, fears, and past experiences. These shape their expectations long before a single word is spoken. To meet a client is to meet more than a person. It is to meet their history and the blueprint they carry of what they believe should happen next. Expectation is not wrong. It is natural. We all carry it. The danger lies in mistaking expectation for truth. When the mind becomes attached to a specific outcome, it can no longer see what is. It begins to resist reality, to argue with the present moment. The client may expect immediate progress, instant clarity, or solutions without struggle. But the path does not bend for our expectations. It unfolds according to its own law. Our role is not to destroy the client's expectations, but to gently hold them up against the light of reality. Sometimes they match, often they do not. It takes skill to reveal this without causing shame or disappointment. It requires compassion to say, "This may take longer than you hoped," or "The answers may not look the way you imagined." To deliver truth without harming trust is a rare discipline. We must also examine our own expectations. We may expect the client to open quickly, to understand deeply, to comply easily. But clients are not projects. They are not extensions of our will. When we expect them to follow our timeline, our structure, or our ideals, we lose sight of who is truly in front of us. We begin to see only what we want them to become, rather than who they are. When expectation meets reality, there is often friction. This is not a problem, it is an opportunity. In that moment, we can choose to harden and defend what we imagined, or we can soften and receive what is truly there. Friction is where transformation begins, not through force, but through the willingness to be honest, both with ourselves and with the client. There is a humility required in letting go of expectation. It means accepting that we are not in control of the process, only participants in it. Reality does not ask for our approval. It simply reveals itself again and again. When we align with it, we move without resistance. When we fight it, we suffer. The same is true for the client. Guidance rooted in reality is often quieter than expected. It is not loud with promises or sharp with certainty. It is steady, responsive, and clear. It does not chase goals. It builds foundations. It does not sell success. It invites growth. This kind of guidance requires trust, not in outcomes, but in presence, in process, in truth. Helping a client shift from expectation to reality is not about taking something away from them. It is about offering them something deeper, clarity. When they begin to see what truly is, they are no longer trapped by what they thought should be. From this space, choices become freer, actions become wiser, and the relationship itself becomes more honest, more grounded, more alive. We often think of mastery as a peak to be reached, a position earned after years of discipline and repetition. But true mastery does not stand above, it kneels beside. It does not separate itself from others through skill, but dissolves into service through humility. To serve is not a detour on the path to mastery. It is the path itself. Each client offers a new form of training, not with wooden swords or long hours of meditation, but through real-time tests of presence, patience, and precision. One may challenge our clarity, another our ability to hold silence. Some will resist what we say, others will cling too tightly. Each interaction asks something different of us, and in rising to meet it, we are shaped. When we serve, our ego is refined, not destroyed, but reshaped. The desire to be right softens. The need to be seen fades. What remains is the essence of the work, to give what is needed, not what makes us feel important. In this way, service becomes a fire in which false identities are burned and authenticity is forged. True mastery can be measured not by how much control we hold, but by how little we need. The one who serves from emptiness, from freedom, from inner quiet, is the one whose presence brings the most depth. Clients may not always understand the techniques, but they feel the transmission of presence. That is the quiet power of someone who has become their own lesson. Mastery through service reveals itself in the small moments. The subtle shift in tone when a client grows fragile, the extra breath before responding, the silence chosen over speech. These are not technical skills, they are expressions of a cultivated self, refined over time, not for performance, but for truth. There is a constant loop between learning and serving. As we learn, we become more able to serve. As we serve, we uncover new layers that must be learned. This cycle never ends, nor should it. Mastery is not final, it is fluid. Every client stretches us in a direction we did not anticipate, and in stretching, we expand. The one who believes they have nothing left to learn has stopped listening. The one who continues to serve, even after recognition, continues to deepen. Mastery is not a throne, it is a practice of returning to humility, to listening, to presence. Each client is another chance to begin again, not as an expert, but as a student of the human experience. In this way, service becomes sacred. It is no longer about giving answers, but about being fully available to whatever the moment requires. The client teaches us how to respond, not with perfection, but with truth. And in learning to serve without self, we are quietly shaped into something steadier, something clearer, something whole. There is a temptation, especially when we feel watched or judged, to perform, to present the best version of ourselves, polished and confident, to say the right words, to show certainty, to lead with structure. But performance builds walls, it distances us. The client does not need a performance, they need presence. Presence is simple, but not easy. It is the practice of being fully here, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It means setting aside the desire to appear capable, and instead choosing to be honest, steady, and available. Presence does not try to impress, it tries to connect, and in doing so, it creates space where real change can begin. Clients may forget our clever words or the detailed structure of our plans, but they will not forget how they felt in our presence. If they felt safe, if they felt seen, if they felt respected. These are not effects of performance. They are the natural fruits of presence. Presence speaks not just through words, but through stillness, breath, and attention. There is a subtle fear beneath performance, the fear of not being enough, and so we try to cover that fear with competence, confidence, and control. But the client is not seeking perfection. They are seeking authenticity. When we drop the mask, they feel permission to do the same. In this shared space, masks are set down and something deeper becomes possible. Presence does not rush. It listens without urgency. It touches silence without discomfort. A client who arrives with anxiety does not need more motion, they need a calm anchor. A client confused by noise does not need more words, they need a moment of clarity. Presence is not the act of doing more, it is the art of being enough as we are. This does not mean abandoning structure or letting go of discipline, but it means allowing the structure to serve the moment, not dominate it. A plan is helpful, but it must remain flexible. The moment may require stillness instead of instruction, reflection instead of progress. To be truly present is to respond to what is, not to what we rehearsed. Performance seeks approval. Present seeks connection. One is concerned with being seen. The other is concerned with seeing. One needs applause. The other needs awareness. When we meet a client with presence, we meet them without an agenda. We meet them not to impress, but to understand. And in that understanding, something true begins to emerge. This truth may be quiet. It may be slow. It may not come with praise or immediate recognition, but it resonates, it endures. It does not fade when the session ends because it was not built on effort. It was built on real contact. The client may not remember the performance. They will remember the feeling of being met fully, without judgment, without hurry, without need